Hello, I'm SA, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin. In the annals of the Scottish Enlightenment, a name resonates with particular force: Thomas Muir. It is a name synonymous with courage, conviction, and a relentless pursuit of political reform in an era of profound social and intellectual ferment. Now, Muir stands as a pivotal figure, a champion of universal suffrage who dared to challenge the entrenched power structures of his time. His story is one of unwavering commitment to democratic ideals, a commitment that ultimately led to his trial and transportation to the far reaches of Australia on charges of sedition, a stark illustration of the risks inherent in advocating for radical change. The late 18th century in Scotland was a period of remarkable intellectual flourishing, yet also one marked by significant political inequality. While Edinburgh became a hub of philosophical and scientific inquiry, the Scottish Parliament remained largely unrepresentative, dominated by a landed gentry and powerful patrons who often prioritized their own interests over those of the broader populace. Governmental corruption was rife, and calls for reform were met with staunch resistance from those who benefited from the existing system. It was within this complex and often contradictory environment that Thomas Muir emerged as a leading voice for change. Muir's journey began with a promising legal career. Educated at the universities of Glasgow and Edinburgh, he possessed a sharp intellect and a deep understanding of the law. However, his legal studies were intertwined with a growing awareness of the injustices prevalent in Scottish society. This awareness fueled his early activism, leading him to embrace the cause of parliamentary reform with an almost zealous fervor. He saw the need for a more inclusive political system, one that extended the right to vote to all adult males, regardless of their social standing or economic status. Central to Muir's political awakening was his involvement in the Friends of the People's Movement, a coalition of reformers dedicated to achieving social justice and political equality. This organization provided a platform for Muir to articulate his vision for a more democratic Scotland, and it also connected him with other like-minded individuals who shared his commitment to reform. He quickly became a prominent figure within the movement, known for his eloquent speeches, his persuasive arguments, and his unwavering dedication to the cause. Muir's dedication to social justice and political equality was evident in his impassioned pleas for parliamentary reform. He argued that the existing system was fundamentally unjust, as it denied the vast majority of Scots any meaningful representation in government. He believed that true liberty could only be achieved through a system of universal suffrage, where every citizen had the right to participate in the political process. This conviction placed him squarely at odds with the ruling elite, who viewed any attempt to expand the franchise as a direct threat to their power and privilege. The essay will analyze Muir's political philosophy and actions within the context of the late 18th century Scottish Enlightenment and assess his lasting impact on the development of democratic thought and practice. His story serves as a reminder of the ongoing struggle for political equality and the importance of defending democratic principles, even in the face of adversity. His early involvement in the Friends of the People's Movement further underscores his unwavering dedication to these ideals. Muir's commitment to reform was driven by a deep-seated belief in the inherent dignity and worth of every individual. He saw political equality as a fundamental human right, essential to ensuring that all citizens had a voice in shaping the laws and policies that governed their lives. He argued that a representative government, accountable to the people, was the only legitimate form of government, and that any system that denied the majority of citizens the right to vote was inherently unjust and oppressive. His advocacy for parliamentary reform was not simply a matter of abstract political theory. It was rooted in a profound concern for the social and economic conditions of the Scottish people. He recognized that the lack of political representation contributed to widespread poverty, inequality, and social unrest. He believed that by empowering ordinary citizens to participate in the political process, Scotland could create a more just and equitable society, one where the needs and interests of all were taken into account. Muir's challenge to governmental corruption stemmed from his unwavering commitment to transparency and accountability in public life. He believed that those in positions of power should be held to the highest ethical standards, and that any abuse of authority should be met with swift and decisive action. He saw corruption as a cancer that eroded public trust in government and undermined the very foundations of a democratic society. His efforts to expose corruption and hold public officials accountable made him a target of those who sought to maintain the status quo. They viewed him as a dangerous agitator and a threat to their vested interests. This animosity ultimately culminated in his trial on charges of sedition, a trial that was widely seen as a politically motivated attempt to silence a leading voice for reform. Muir's story is a testament to the power of ideas and the enduring importance of fighting for what is right, even when the odds seem insurmountable. His unwavering commitment to democratic principles serves as an inspiration to all who believe in the possibility of a more just and equitable world. However, the solar system is composed of multiple bodies, each exerting gravitational forces on all the others. These mutual interactions introduce complexities that make it exceedingly difficult to find exact solutions to the equations of motion. Astronomers observed that the orbits of planets, particularly Jupiter and Saturn, exhibited small but noticeable changes over time. These changes raised concerns about the long-term stability of the solar system. Was it possible that these perturbations could accumulate over vast stretches of time, eventually leading to catastrophic collisions or the ejection of planets from the solar system? Newton himself recognized the challenges presented by these perturbations. While he believed in the overall stability of the solar system, he also suggested that divine intervention might be necessary to correct any accumulated deviations and maintain its harmonious order. This idea, however, was not entirely satisfactory to many scientists, who sought a purely mechanical explanation for the observed phenomena. Laplace stepped into this arena of uncertainty, armed with his unparalleled mathematical skills and a deep understanding of Newtonian mechanics. He embarked on a rigorous investigation of the gravitational interactions between planets, seeking to determine whether the observed perturbations were indeed a sign of impending instability or simply periodic fluctuations that would eventually reverse themselves. His unique approach involved developing a sophisticated mathematical framework for analyzing the long-term behavior of planetary orbits. He employed techniques from calculus and differential equations to model the gravitational forces between planets and to calculate the resulting changes in their orbital parameters. His most significant contribution was his mathematical proof of the stability of the solar system, at least to the first order of approximation. Civic humanists believed that individuals had a moral obligation to participate in public life and to contribute to the common good. This notion resonated deeply with Muir, who saw political engagement as essential for the preservation of liberty and the promotion of social justice. He believed that citizens should be informed, engaged, and willing to hold their government accountable. Muir's own life exemplified this commitment to civic duty, as he dedicated himself to advocating for political reform, even at great personal risk. The Scottish Enlightenment also embraced natural rights theory, which posited that individuals possess inherent rights that governments cannot legitimately infringe upon. Thinkers like John Locke profoundly shaped this concept, arguing that individuals are endowed with rights to life, liberty, and property. Muir, like many of his contemporaries, adopted this framework, believing that all individuals are born with certain inalienable rights that must be protected by law. He saw the existing political system in Scotland as violating these rights, particularly the right to representation and the right to participate in the political process. His advocacy for parliamentary reform was therefore grounded in a deep conviction that the existing system was fundamentally unjust and incompatible with the principles of natural rights. The emphasis on public virtue was another defining characteristic of the Scottish Enlightenment. Public virtue referred to the qualities of character and conduct that were deemed essential for the success of a republic. These qualities included honesty, integrity, selflessness, and a commitment to the common good. Enlightenment thinkers believed that a virtuous citizenry was necessary to prevent corruption and tyranny. Muir shared this belief, arguing that political reform was not simply about changing institutions, it was also about cultivating a more virtuous political culture. He believed that citizens should be motivated by a desire to serve the public interest, rather than by personal gain or ambition. Muir's own life was a testament to his commitment to public virtue, as he consistently prioritized the needs of others above his own. Muir's understanding of liberty, equality, and representation was deeply influenced by Enlightenment thinkers such as Locke, Rousseau, and Montesquieu. From Locke he drew inspiration for his belief in individual rights and limited government. Locke's concept of the social contract, which held that governments derive their legitimacy from the consent of the governed, resonated strongly with Muir. He believed that the Scottish people had a right to participate in their own governance, and that the existing political system, which excluded the vast majority of the population from political participation, was illegitimate. His early legal career and subsequent activism demonstrate a trajectory of unwavering dedication to these ideals. The political climate of late 18th century Scotland was one of both hope and fear. The Scottish Enlightenment had unleashed a wave of intellectual and social ferment, challenging traditional hierarchies and promoting new ideas about liberty, equality, and self-government. At the same time, the French Revolution had sent shockwaves across Europe, raising concerns among the ruling elite about the potential for radical change and social upheaval. It was within this context of both opportunity and risk that Thomas Muir emerged as a leading figure in the Scottish reform movement. He embodied the spirit of the Enlightenment, embracing reason, progress, and the belief in the inherent rights of man. He also possessed a keen understanding of the political realities of his time, recognizing the challenges and obstacles that stood in the way of achieving meaningful reform. His legal background provided him with a unique perspective on the issues facing Scottish society. He understood the intricacies of the law and how it could be used both to uphold justice and to perpetuate inequality. This knowledge informed his advocacy for parliamentary reform, allowing him to articulate his arguments with clarity, precision, and a deep understanding of the legal and constitutional framework. Muir's early activism was characterized by a willingness to challenge authority and to speak truth to power. He was not afraid to criticize the government or to expose corruption, even when doing so put him at personal risk. This courage and conviction earned him the respect of many, but it also made him a target of those who sought to silence his voice. The essay will delve into the complexities of Muir's political thought and actions, exploring the intellectual influences that shaped his vision for a more democratic Scotland, and assessing the lasting impact of his legacy on the development of democratic thought and practice. His story serves as a reminder of the enduring relevance of the struggle for political equality and the importance of defending democratic principles in the face of adversity. Thomas Muir's emergence as a prominent voice for political reform in late 18th century Scotland was deeply rooted in the intellectual currents of the Scottish Enlightenment. This period, characterized by its emphasis on reason, progress, and individual liberty, provided the philosophical framework for Muir's unwavering commitment to democratic ideals. To understand Muir's political philosophy, one must first appreciate the profound influence of the Scottish Enlightenment on his thinking. At the heart of the Scottish Enlightenment lay the concept of civic humanism, a philosophy that emphasized the importance of active citizenship and public virtue. Rousseau's ideas about popular sovereignty and the general will also influenced Muir's thinking. Rousseau argued that political authority should ultimately reside in the people as a whole, and that laws should reflect the general will of the community. Muir embraced this concept, believing that the Scottish people should have the right to determine their own political destiny. He saw parliamentary reform as a means of empowering the people and ensuring that their voices were heard in government. Montesquieu's theory of the separation of powers also played a role in shaping Muir's political philosophy. Montesquieu argued that government should be divided into three branches: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial, each with its own distinct powers and responsibilities. Muir believed that this separation of powers was essential for preventing tyranny and protecting individual liberty. He saw the existing political system in Scotland as lacking a proper separation of powers, with the executive branch wielding too much power and the legislative branch being too easily influenced by the aristocracy. Muir's legal background further informed his understanding of rights and justice. As a lawyer, he was intimately familiar with the laws of Scotland and the legal system. This knowledge allowed him to articulate his arguments for political reform with clarity, precision, and a deep understanding of the legal and constitutional framework. He was able to identify specific laws and practices that he believed were unjust or oppressive, and he could offer concrete proposals for reform. His legal training also gave him a keen appreciation for the importance of due process and the rule of law. He believed that all individuals, regardless of their social status or political beliefs, were entitled to fair treatment under the law. Muir's belief in the inherent rights of the people and the need for accountable government is evident in his writings and speeches. He consistently argued that government should be based on the consent of the governed, and that citizens should have the right to participate in the political process. He also emphasized the importance of transparency and accountability in government, arguing that public officials should be held responsible for their actions. In one of his most famous speeches, Muir declared, "I have devoted myself to the cause of the people. It is a cause, I am free to confess, which I have long regarded as the most sacred and important that can engage the attention of mankind." This statement encapsulates Muir's unwavering commitment to the principles of democracy and his belief that the people should be the ultimate source of political authority. Muir's writings also reveal his deep concern for the plight of the poor and the marginalized. He believed that government had a responsibility to protect the vulnerable and to ensure that all citizens had the opportunity to lead a decent life. He advocated for policies that would promote economic justice and reduce inequality. His vision of a just society was one in which all individuals had the opportunity to flourish, regardless of their social background or economic circumstances. Muir's political philosophy was thus a complex and multifaceted synthesis of Enlightenment ideals, legal principles, and a deep commitment to social justice. He drew inspiration from a wide range of intellectual sources, but he also developed his own unique perspective on the challenges facing Scotland and the path towards a more democratic future. His legacy as a champion of political reform is inextricably linked to his profound understanding of the principles of liberty, equality, and representation. His courage in advocating for these principles, even in the face of persecution, continues to inspire those who strive for a more just and equitable world. Thomas Muir's commitment to political reform found a powerful outlet in his involvement with the Friends of the People's movement. This organization, born from the ferment of Enlightenment ideals and a growing desire for democratic representation, sought to bring about meaningful change in the Scottish political landscape. The Friends of the Peoples attracted a diverse membership, encompassing individuals from various social strata, united by a shared belief in the necessity of parliamentary reform. Professionals, merchants, farmers, and even some members of the gentry found common cause in the pursuit of a more equitable and representative system of governance. The organization's aims were ambitious, centered around achieving universal male suffrage, fairer electoral districts, and an end to the widespread corruption that plagued the existing political system. They envisioned a Scotland where the voices of ordinary citizens would be heard and where the government would be accountable to the people it served. The Friends of the Peoples employed a range of strategies to advance their cause, including public meetings, the circulation of pamphlets and petitions, and the establishment of local branches throughout Scotland. These activities were designed to raise public awareness of the need for reform, mobilize support for the organization's goals, and exert pressure on the government to take action. Muir's contributions to the Friends of the Peoples were multifaceted and invaluable. He possessed a keen strategic mind, a powerful oratorical ability, and an unwavering dedication to the cause of reform. He played a crucial role in shaping the movement's strategy, helping to define its goals and develop effective tactics for achieving them. His legal background proved particularly useful in drafting petitions and other documents, ensuring that the organization's arguments were presented in a clear, persuasive, and legally sound manner. Muir also excelled in crafting the movement's rhetoric, articulating its principles in a way that resonated with a broad audience. He understood the importance of appealing to both reason and emotion, weaving together logical arguments with passionate appeals to justice and fairness. His speeches were known for their eloquence, their clarity, and their unwavering commitment to the cause of reform. He had a remarkable ability to connect with people from all walks of life, inspiring them to join the movement and to fight for a better future. Beyond his strategic and rhetorical contributions, Muir was also a skilled organizer. He recognized that the success of the Friends of the Peoples depended on its ability to build a strong, well-coordinated network of local branches throughout Scotland. He worked tirelessly to establish these branches, recruiting members, training activists, and providing them with the resources they needed to effectively promote the organization's goals. His leadership was instrumental in transforming the Friends of the Peoples from a small group of reformers into a powerful force for change. The Friends of the Peoples movement, however, faced significant challenges. The government, alarmed by the growing popularity of the organization and its calls for radical reform, responded with a campaign of repression. Public meetings were banned, pamphlets were seized, and activists were arrested and prosecuted on charges of sedition. The government's actions created a climate of fear and intimidation, making it difficult for the Friends of the Peoples to operate effectively. Internal divisions also plagued the movement. While united in their desire for reform, members held differing views on the specific changes that were needed and the best way to achieve them. Some favored a gradual approach, while others advocated for more radical measures. These disagreements sometimes led to friction and infighting, weakening the organization's unity and effectiveness. The Friends of the Peoples also faced considerable public opposition. Many Scots were deeply conservative and suspicious of any attempt to alter the existing political order. They viewed the movement's calls for reform as a threat to social stability and traditional values. The press, largely controlled by the government and the aristocracy, played a significant role in shaping public opinion, often portraying the Friends of the Peoples as dangerous radicals seeking to overthrow the established order. Despite these challenges, the Friends of the People's movement had a significant impact on public opinion and the political landscape in Scotland. The Friends of the People's movement, under Muir's guidance, represented a pivotal moment in Scottish history. It demonstrated the growing desire for democratic reform and laid the groundwork for future movements that would eventually transform the Scottish political landscape. Muir's leadership, his strategic acumen, his rhetorical skills, and his unwavering commitment to the cause of reform made him a central figure in this movement. His legacy as a champion of the people continues to inspire those who strive for a more just and equitable world. The burgeoning influence of the Friends of the Peoples and the palpable shift in public sentiment towards reform did not go unnoticed by the authorities. The government, deeply entrenched in its established power structures, viewed the movement with increasing alarm. It perceived Muir's activities, along with those of his colleagues, as a direct threat to the existing order. The response was swift and decisive. Muir, along with several other prominent reformers, found himself facing charges of sedition, a legal weapon frequently wielded to silence dissent and suppress political opposition. The trial of Thomas Muir in 1793 stands as a stark illustration of the government's determination to crush the reform movement. The charges against him centered on his alleged attempts to incite disaffection and unrest among the populace. The prosecution presented evidence that included excerpts from his speeches, copies of pamphlets he had distributed, and testimonies from individuals who claimed to have been influenced by his seditious rhetoric. These accusations painted a picture of Muir as a dangerous radical intent on overthrowing the established government. A close examination of the evidence, however, reveals a different narrative. Muir's speeches, while impassioned and critical of the status quo, primarily advocated for peaceful and constitutional reform. He championed the right of the people to participate in the political process and called for a more equitable distribution of power. The pamphlets he distributed contained arguments for parliamentary reform and highlighted the injustices of the existing system. While his language was undoubtedly strong, it remained within the bounds of legitimate political discourse. The testimonies against him were often inconsistent and unreliable, reflecting the government's eagerness to secure a conviction. The political motivations behind Muir's trial were transparent. The government sought to make an example of him, deterring others from joining the reform movement. By silencing Muir, they hoped to stifle the growing calls for change and maintain their grip on power. The trial was conducted in an atmosphere of intense political pressure, with the judges openly displaying their bias against the defendant. The Lord Justice Clerk, Robert McQueen, Lord Braxfield, notorious for his harsh demeanour and unwavering support for the government, presided over the proceedings. His conduct throughout the trial was widely criticised as unfair and prejudicial. He frequently interrupted Muir's defence, made disparaging remarks about his character, and openly expressed his contempt for the reform movement. Braxfield's blatant bias undermined the integrity of the trial and cast a shadow over the entire proceedings. Other judges echoed Braxfield's sentiments, creating a climate of hostility towards Muir and his cause. The fairness of Muir's trial was questionable at best. He faced a stacked jury, handpicked by the authorities to ensure a guilty verdict. He was denied the right to call witnesses in his defense and was subjected to relentless interrogation by the prosecution. The judges consistently ruled against him, rejecting his objections and dismissing his arguments. The entire process seemed designed to secure a conviction, regardless of the evidence. The verdict of guilty sent shockwaves through Scotland and beyond. The public reaction was one of outrage and condemnation. Many viewed Muir's conviction as a gross miscarriage of justice and a blatant attack on freedom of speech. Mass meetings were held in Edinburgh, Glasgow, and other cities to protest the government's actions. Petitions were circulated, demanding Muir's release and calling for an investigation into the conduct of the trial. The Whig Party, traditionally opposed to the government, seized on the case as an opportunity to attack the administration and champion the cause of reform. The widespread condemnation of Muir's trial and conviction exposed the deep divisions within Scottish society. While the government sought to portray the reform movement as a fringe phenomenon, the public outcry demonstrated the extent of popular support for change. The trial backfired, galvanizing the opposition and strengthening the resolve of those who sought a more democratic and equitable society. The sentence imposed upon Muir was particularly harsh. He was sentenced to 14 years transportation to New South Wales, a penal colony in Australia. This sentence was intended to remove him from the political scene and to deter others from following in his footsteps. Transportation was a common punishment for political prisoners and criminals deemed too dangerous to remain in Britain. The conditions of Muir's transportation were brutal. He was confined to a crowded and unsanitary ship, along with other convicts, for the long and arduous journey to Australia. The voyage was fraught with hardship, disease and deprivation. Many convicts died during the journey, and those who survived arrived in Australia weakened and demoralized. Upon arrival in New South Wales, Muir was subjected to the harsh realities of convict life. He was assigned to a work gang and forced to perform hard labor under the supervision of brutal overseers. He endured physical abuse, inadequate food, and appalling living conditions. Despite these hardships, Muir maintained his dignity and his commitment to the cause of reform. Muir's experiences as a convict in Australia further solidified his reputation as a martyr for liberty. His suffering became a symbol of the government's repression and a rallying cry for those who sought a more just and humane society. His trial and transportation served as a catalyst for further reform movements, both in Scotland and in England. The significance of Muir's trial extends far beyond the individual case. It represents a pivotal moment in the history of democratic reform in Britain. It exposed the government's willingness to use oppressive measures to silence dissent and maintain its grip on power. It also demonstrated the resilience of the reform movement and the unwavering commitment of its supporters to the cause of liberty. Muir's trial became a symbol of the struggle for freedom of speech, the right to assembly, and the pursuit of a more democratic society. His legacy continues to inspire those who fight for justice and equality around the world. Muir's escape from the penal colony in Australia reads like a chapter from a thrilling adventure novel. With the assistance of sympathetic individuals, he managed to secure passage aboard an American trading vessel, the Otter, bound for the United States. This daring act marked the beginning of a new phase in his life, one characterized by exile, relentless advocacy, and the enduring hope for reform in his homeland. His arrival in America provided him with a platform to share his experiences and articulate his vision for a more democratic society. He traveled extensively, delivering speeches and engaging in discussions with prominent political figures and reform-minded citizens. He found a receptive audience among those who valued liberty and self-government, ideals deeply ingrained in the American ethos. Muir's eloquent accounts of the injustices he suffered and the oppressive tactics employed by the British government resonated with many, further fueling the cause of reform on both sides of the Atlantic. His time in America was relatively brief, yet it proved to be a crucial period for shaping his political thought and solidifying his commitment to democratic principles. He observed firsthand the workings of a representative government, witnessing both its strengths and its limitations. He interacted with individuals from diverse backgrounds, each with their own perspectives on the challenges facing society. These experiences broadened his understanding of democracy and reinforced his belief in the importance of civic engagement and the protection of individual rights. From America, Muir journeyed to France, a nation then in the throes of revolutionary fervor. The French Revolution, with its promise of liberty, equality and fraternity, had a profound impact on Muir's political outlook. He saw in the revolution an opportunity for radical change, a chance to dismantle the old order and establish a society based on the principles of popular sovereignty and social justice. He embraced the revolutionary ideals with enthusiasm, becoming a vocal supporter of the French cause. His presence in France brought him into contact with a diverse array of political exiles and reformers from across Europe. These individuals, driven from their homelands by persecution and political repression, shared a common desire for a more just and equitable world. Muir found camaraderie and intellectual stimulation in their company, engaging in lively debates and exchanging ideas about the future of democracy. This network of exiles provided him with a vital support system, helping him to navigate the challenges of life in a foreign land and to maintain his focus on the cause of reform. His exile did not diminish his commitment to political reform. Rather, it intensified his resolve to fight for a more just and democratic society. He continued to write prolifically, producing pamphlets, essays and letters that circulated widely throughout Scotland and Britain. These writings served as a powerful indictment of the government's policies and a passionate plea for reform. He argued for the expansion of suffrage, the abolition of corrupt practices, and the establishment of a more accountable government. His words resonated with a growing number of people who were disillusioned with the status quo and eager for change. He maintained a lively correspondence with reform leaders in Scotland and Britain, providing them with encouragement, advice, and financial support. He used his connections in America and France to raise awareness of the Scottish reform movement and to solicit support for its cause. He became a key figure in a transnational network of reformers, working tirelessly to promote the ideals of democracy and social justice. His efforts to rally support for reform were met with resistance from the British government, which viewed him as a dangerous agitator and a threat to its authority. His writings were censored, his letters intercepted, and his movements closely monitored. The government sought to discredit him and to undermine his influence, but its efforts proved largely unsuccessful. Muir's reputation as a martyr for liberty only grew stronger as a result of its persecution. The impact of his exile on his political thought was profound. It deepened his understanding of the challenges facing democracy and reinforced his commitment to the principles of social justice. He came to see the importance of international solidarity in the struggle for reform, recognizing that the fight for freedom was a global endeavor. His experiences in America and France broadened his perspective and provided him with new insights into the complexities of political change. His experiences as a political exile allowed him to develop a more nuanced understanding of democracy. He recognized that democracy was not simply a matter of holding elections and establishing representative institutions. It also required a commitment to the protection of individual rights, the promotion of social justice, and the cultivation of a vibrant civil society. He saw that democracy was an ongoing process, one that required constant vigilance and active participation from all citizens. His commitment to social justice was also strengthened by his experiences in exile. He witnessed firsthand the inequalities and injustices that plagued societies around the world. He saw the plight of the poor, the marginalized and the oppressed, and he became determined to fight for a more equitable distribution of wealth and power. His commitment to social justice was rooted in his belief that all human beings are created equal and that everyone deserves the opportunity to live a life of dignity and fulfillment. His exile served as a crucible, testing his resolve and shaping his political vision. He emerged from this experience as a more mature, more determined, and more sophisticated advocate for democratic reform. His writings and speeches from exile became a source of inspiration for reformers in Scotland and Britain, helping to sustain the movement during a period of intense repression. His legacy as a champion of liberty and social justice was further cemented by his unwavering commitment to the cause, even in the face of adversity. His actions and writings during this period provide a powerful testament to the enduring power of ideas and the importance of standing up for what one believes in, regardless of the consequences. Thomas Muir's legacy extends far beyond the confines of his own lifetime, resonating through subsequent generations of reformers and activists who have drawn inspiration from his courageous stand for democratic ideals. His impact on the development of democratic thought and practice, particularly in Scotland, is undeniable, shaping the course of political reform and contributing to the expansion of suffrage, the promotion of civil liberties, and the advancement of accountable government. Muir's unwavering dedication to these principles, even in the face of persecution and exile, cemented his place as a pivotal figure in the struggle for democracy and social justice. Muir's commitment to expanding suffrage stemmed from his deep-seated belief in the inherent right of all citizens to participate in the political process. He envisioned a society where political power was vested in the people, rather than concentrated in the hands of a privileged elite. His advocacy for universal manhood suffrage, a radical proposition in his time, challenged the existing power structures and paved the way for future reforms that gradually extended the franchise to a wider segment of the population. The seeds of democratic participation that Muir sowed germinated over time, leading to a more inclusive and representative political system. His promotion of civil liberties was another cornerstone of his democratic vision. He understood that a truly democratic society must protect the fundamental rights of its citizens, including freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and freedom of the press. Muir vigorously defended these rights, even when doing so put him at personal risk. His eloquent defense of the right to free expression, both in his speeches and in his writings, served as a powerful reminder of the importance of safeguarding these essential freedoms against encroachment by the state. His actions helped to create a climate in which civil liberties could flourish, contributing to a more open and tolerant society. Muir's advocacy for accountable government was closely linked to his commitment to expanding suffrage and promoting civil liberties. He believed that government should be accountable to the people it serves, and that citizens should have the right to hold their elected officials responsible for their actions. He championed the principles of transparency, open debate, and public participation in government decision-making. His efforts to promote accountable government helped to establish a system where power was subject to checks and balances, preventing abuses of authority and ensuring that the government remained responsive to the needs and aspirations of the people. His influence on subsequent generations of reformers and activists is difficult to overstate. His example of courage and conviction inspired countless individuals to take up the cause of democratic reform. His writings and speeches became a source of inspiration for those who sought to challenge injustice and inequality. His legacy as a champion of liberty and social justice served as a beacon of hope for those who were struggling to create a more just and equitable world. The impact of his ideas can be seen in the subsequent history of democratic reform movements. Muir occupies a distinctive place in Scottish history, revered as a symbol of resistance to tyranny and a champion of democratic ideals. He embodies the spirit of independence and the commitment to social justice that has long been a part of the Scottish national identity. His story has been told and retold, inspiring generations of Scots to stand up for what they believe in, even in the face of adversity. The organization's petitions and public meetings help to raise awareness of the need for reform and to mobilize support for its goals. Its activities forced the government to address the issue of parliamentary representation, even if only to suppress dissent. The movement's legacy lived on in subsequent reform movements, inspiring future generations of Scots to fight for a more democratic and equitable society. Muir's leadership was particularly crucial in navigating these turbulent waters. He possessed an uncanny ability to inspire and mobilize support, even in the face of adversity. His unwavering commitment to the cause of reform, his eloquence and his strategic acumen made him a natural leader. He understood the importance of maintaining unity within the movement, of reaching out to potential allies, and of countering the government's propaganda. One example of Muir's effectiveness as a leader can be seen in his role in organizing and promoting the movement's petitions. He recognized that these petitions were a powerful tool for demonstrating the extent of public support for reform. He worked tirelessly to draft petitions that were clear, concise, and persuasive, and he traveled throughout Scotland to encourage people to sign them. The petitions generated by the Friends of the Peoples garnered thousands of signatures, sending a clear message to the government that there was a growing demand for change. Another example of Muir's leadership can be found in his speeches. He was a gifted orator who could captivate audiences with his words. His speeches were filled with passion, conviction, and a deep understanding of the issues at stake. He spoke eloquently about the importance of liberty, equality, and representation, and he inspired his listeners to take action. His words resonated with many Scots, who felt disenfranchised and ignored by the existing political system. In one particularly memorable speech, Muir declared, "I have devoted myself to the cause of the people. It is a cause founded on the eternal principles of justice and humanity. It is a cause that will ultimately triumph, despite all the obstacles that may be placed in its path." These words, delivered with unwavering conviction, captured the spirit of the Friends of the People's movement and inspired countless individuals to join its ranks. Muir's ability to mobilize support for reform extended beyond his speeches and organizational efforts. He also understood the importance of using the press to disseminate the movement's message and to counter the government's propaganda. He contributed articles to various newspapers and journals, articulating the Friends of the People's goals and exposing the injustices of the existing political system. His writings helped to shape public opinion and to create a more favorable climate for reform.
We really appreciate you tuning in to this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.